Hello everyone, welcome to Jamaica 411. Today I have something special for you. We're going to be looking again at the Integrity Commission annual report, which came out a couple of weeks ago. And what we'll be looking at today will be these illicit six and the seven parliamentarians who are being investigated according to the IC for having made false statements in their statutory declarations. Now, before we begin, I'm showing you a footage of this year's opening of Parliament. And it may be among these parliamentarians, very possibly, those who are missing. Some, may not have come to the opening ceremony. Very possibly also the parliamentarians that may be under investigations may have been parliamentarians of the past. We don't know. But I want you to take a look at everybody, and then we'll have a discussion as to what the Integrity Commission's report said. Just as a small reminder, please remember to subscribe to my channel, share the video, and give the video a thumbs up. And I appreciate it when when I see you subscribing and I see you sharing and so on. So without further ado, let's get to the Integrity Commission's report and see what, if anything, they have told us about the illicit six and the seven parliamentarians who made false statements on their statutory declarations. Who is to tell? Maybe somebody we have voted for is implicated. We just don't know. Let's have a look at the footage.
And you see the Prime Minister has sort of broken away from the pack. The supporting ministers and leaders are right behind him, but the Prime Minister is walking a little bit ahead, for he is to greet the police commissioner, and we expect that to happen right there at the front, the entrance of Garden House. And here we have sight of the members of
coming
the
from the south
of the PNP, the People's
yes,
National
indeed.
Party. There at the front, leader of opposition,
leader.
Mark Golding. And we see to his
right, that's Anthony Hilton, and several other members of his team, the opposition team.
Angela Brown Burke is there. We saw Mrs.
Philip
Julian
Paulwell.
Yes, Philip Paulwell.
Julian
is
Robinson.
There. And they are,
I think just off screen there, I think that's Michael Phillips, and just off screen is Lisa Hanna.
There it is. And they've paused a moment. They've paused a moment right at the entrance of Garden House as we work out the entrance. In the press corps is there, but they will soon proceed right into the chamber.
Of course.
You may be saying to yourself, all these many weeks, perhaps so nearly a year, who the dickens are these illicit six? Now 2 more drop on it, my darlings, and it's now illicit 8. So you must be saying to yourself, then who are these illicit 8? Why can't we hear the names? And almost every parliamentarian you might be looking at and saying, I wonder if it's this one or I wonder if it's that one. Well, the first thing is, the only person or persons who know or knows who these illicit 8 are the persons who would have reported them. What they were reported for is another matter that we don't know. Is it money laundering? Is it having properties that they purchased under somebody else's name? We don't know. Is it that they had their fingers in the cookie jar? Is it drug running? It could be all sorts of things. We just don't know because we don't know what was reported to the Integrity Commission. But having said that, we are reminded that Justice Panton made some statements in the annual report. And I think we should have a look at that to see what it was that he said, because it may be that he was giving us a bit of a clue. And as you know, at Jamaica 411, clues just give us that warm and fuzzy feeling, doesn't it? Okay, so let's get on with it now. So on the obstacles. This is Justice Panton speaking, and under the title Obstacles, he was referring to the issues that they were having in getting information from the declarants. And at the bottom, where you see a surrounding red, it says, I do not for one moment query the veracity of the clearance, but I have noted that the Director of Information and Complaints, that's Mr. Beresford, right, has received responses indicating gifts having been made by individuals who have died. These gifts are without a paper trail. Let me read that for you again. The gifts are without a paper trail. And of course, the donors are no longer able to verify same. It is perhaps something worth watching. The Commission is not keen on investigating matters relating to donations by persons who have died. I should not think so. So, why is it that I said that this may be some kind of a clue? Because I think what Justice Panton is saying here is that when the Director of Information and Complaints, Mr. Craig Beresford, he sees anything odd and off, or when he asks for the supporting documents to back up whatever it is that the declarant says they own, the declarant may reply that it was a gift because he has no paper trail for how he came by this property, for argument's sake. Let us say a piece of land, right? He says he owned this land that he's paying taxes for. When asked, so what's the supporting document? There's no title. So how is he going to explain himself? He got it by way of gift from maybe a family member, more than likely, like a father or mother or somebody. But there is no paper trail, meaning it was left in a will. It wasn't administered on. How they come to get the title in their name is another story. But it seems that Justice Panton is saying here that claiming gifts from persons who have died seems to be the favorite go-to, or fast becoming the favorite go-to of these persons who may find themselves in a situation where an inconvenient question is being asked about something that they appear not to have any legal title to in terms of paperwork. So they may own it, but they're not showing how it is that they own this property, how they own this car, and so on. But what exactly, though, do they mean by illicit enrichment? Because, as you know, it's very important that we understand what these terms mean, and so we are all on the same page. Now, according to Wikipedia, it says here that illicit enrichment generally refers to a situation in which a person has enjoyed some sort of wealth that cannot or has not been justified as coming from a legitimate source of income. Let me read that for you again. So illicit enrichment generally refers to a situation in which a person has enjoyed some sort of wealth. So they have a lot of money, a lot of properties, businesses, and so on, that cannot be or has not been justified. So they can't show that the wealth that they have is coming from legitimate source of income. I don't know how many of you may have watched The Godfather. You remember that? The Godfather, one of the most, boy, may I tell you, one of the best shows ever. With Don Corleone. Started out as a Sicilian mobster in New York. He was a godfather. You have the Dons, and the Godfather is a superior to the Dons. Eventually, his son, Michael, who was the youngest, he was trying to get him, to go legit and become, I think he wanted him to become a politician or something. And he wanted him to not to be in the business. He wanted him to go legit. Ultimately, in the end, Michael did go legit. What did he do? He used the illegal money to buy up, if I recall correctly, casinos and other legitimate businesses. Rinse the money, as we would say these days, and make now that criminal organization a legitimate organization. Had it been today, he would have to show where the money came from to buy these casinos, because he did not have any employment that could justify having 100 or 2 million, 10 million, 50 million, or 20 million to buy a property. He had to show, nowadays, he would have had to show that he has a job or a business that is legitimate, where he earned this kind of profit, where he could not buy the business. In those days, it was not so. So, this is what is meant when Wikipedia is saying they cannot justify that the wealth that they have as coming from a legitimate source of income. Understand that now? It goes on to say the exact definitions for illicit enrichment and the terminology used to describe the concept vary considerably between international legal instruments and domestic laws. Well, I suspect that this is spot on for what it is that we mean when we talk about illicit enrichment. So I described one source of illicit enrichment where the person may have gotten the wealth from drugs or racketeering, as it was, if I recall correctly, in the case of Don Corleone. They may have gotten it from stealing, may have been in some kind of criminal enterprise where they go around and rob people. They could have gotten it from being in government or being in a position where they can put their fingers on taxpayers' money, which seems to be what everybody thinks illicit enrichment means, that they're stealing taxpayers' money. No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. There are many ways in which people can gain illicit wealth. All that is really required, is for them to do something illegal in order to acquire the wealth. So you talk about things like prostitution, human trafficking, a whole lot of stuff. Anything at all that is illegal that you gain wealth from, that is illicit enrichment. That's basically what it means. So with the Integrity Commission now, they have the Information and Complaints Division, and they received, you remember from the last video, they received the statutory declarations from the clearance from public officials and civil servants, certain number of them at any rate, about 36,000 per year on average. And this is the report now that they're giving for the 2023-2024 period, which is the current period. They're saying that on average of the cases that were referred, there are around 5.6 cases per investigator, which isn't bad. They've had 29 complaints or referrals received, 81 investigations closed, and the reports tabled in Parliament. Many of those investigations, I'm sure, is to do with persons who fail to declare, to submit declarations, which is easy. What is not so easy for them, apparently, is to close cases to do with illicit enrichment, as well as to do with those persons who make false statement on their declaration. So they are saying here of the completion of complaints and referrals from 2018 to 2024. For those reports that are in blue, what you say blue here, it means that they were referred to the Director of Corruption Prosecution so that she can take the matter to court. So this is what this table is saying. And it also gives us now how long it takes for them on average to close cases. by the financial period. And it went up to as much as 15 months in 2021-2022. But it has reduced now to 8 months from the time when they start the investigation until the time when the investigation is closed, either that they found nothing on which to proceed on, or they found something and then refer that case now to the Director of Corruption Prosecution for her to prosecute the case. All right, get that? Next, now we have the reporting period. They said the total contracts. So they also investigate contracts in terms of the compliance, contracts in terms of, and licenses, overruns. They investigate all of that. So they had contracts of 1,575, and then they give you the comparison and so on. And the contract's total value is 134.3 billion, and also 769 million US. And this is the worth of the contracts that they have investigated. So you see they're doing a lot of work there. When it now comes to site visits now, this now is talking about, let's see, what are they talking about here? This must be to the construction sites. So they make some site visits and they're telling us how much kilometers they travel, which is 112,713.5 in all. Then now they're telling us about the ratio of cases to inspect. This must be also dealing with the contracts. But we are interested in illicit enrichment. They're still here on contracts. They're talking about an annual contract cost overrun and variation report compliance. So it's saying here that they handle those contracts as well, those types of contracts, and the circumstances where they might be overrun. They investigate to find out what may have caused it, or whether or not it's justified, and so on. Then this is saying now, statistical performance matters investigated. Again, it's contracts. And they're telling you the 6 items that they investigated during the year. The procurement activities undertaken in the renovation of the Spanish Town High School, the allegations of impropriety, irregularities, and conflict of interest at the Factories Corporation. Same thing at the Bureau of Standard, more or less. Then there is the acquisition of the First Rock Capital Holdings by the Airport Authority of Jamaica and the Norman Manley International Airport Limited. So they are saying this may have been a conflict of interest. Report of investigation concerning allegations of irregularities in the approval process, which led to the construction of a residential development located at 11 Charlemont Drive, Kingston 6. And they were also investigating impropriety and irregularities in relation to the unknown whereabouts of certain government of Jamaica motor vehicles belonging to the MTM. So we're getting there slowly but surely. This now is investigations in, again, it's contract, and we're not interested in contracts, not at this time. All right, seems as if we're getting down to the nitty-gritty. So we are here now at the Declarations and Financial Investigations Unit. Let's see what that is. It says the Declarations and Financial Investigations Unit, inter alia, conducts investigations pursuant to Section 43 of the Integrity Commission Act and Section 14 of the Corruption Prevention Act into the statutory declarations filed by public officials. So, Mr. Beresford receives the statutory declarations, but the investigations are carried out by the Declarations and Financial Investigations Unit, and we will see if that unit is a part of the Information and Complaints Division. All right, let's read on and see what it says. These investigations include matters of non-compliance, such as failure to file statutory declarations or failure to comply with a request for information, making a false statement in a statutory declaration, and illicit enrichment allegations. So this now is the unit that actually does the investigations. It goes on to say at the end of financial year 2022-2023, which is last year, the unit had a total of 74 open cases. In financial year 2023-2024, which is this year, the number of open investigations stood at 55, so they were able to reduce it. Over the last 6 years, from financial year 2018, 2019 to 2023, 2024, a total of 145 cases have been referred to the Director of Corruption Prosecution by the unit. Specifically, in financial year 2023-2024, 16 new matters were referred to the DCP after investigation. Remember, the DCP now is the Director of Corruption Prosecution. So during the period 2023-2024, which they had referred 16 cases to the Director of Corruption Prosecution for her to take the people to court and have a determination there. It says the tables and figures below portray the particulars of the declarations and financial investigations unit portfolio over the period 2018 to 2023. It says here the total investigations referrals received, this is now 2018-2019, 906. Of that amount, they closed only one investigation, and it took them an average 2,244 days, which is 6 years, in order to close that one little dege case. And at the end of it, it was not referred to the Director of Corruption Prosecution. Why? Because apparently they found that there was no merit in the case. This is what I'm assuming, because if they closed the case and it wasn't a referral to the Director of Corruption Prosecution, then the case was closed. The following year, they got another 906. And of the 906, which is now 1,812, they closed only 2 cases. So out of 1,812 cases, 3 cases were closed. But they reduced the amount of time it takes to do the investigation to 1,851 days. By 2020 to 2021, another 913 cases were referred. But they improved a lot because they were able to close the investigations in 41 instances, and the average time for investigation fell dramatically to 756 days. In that same year, they referred 51 persons to the Director of Corruption Prosecution. Right? So they were making progress. I do believe one of the reasons maybe in the past was that they didn't have the resources, the human resource to do the investigation, and then it improved. So in 2021, 2022, 121 referrals received. I guess that would have been from the director after inspecting the statutory declaration, or based upon complaints, then he would now refer them for investigations by that unit. Anyway, in 2022, 2023, there were only 74 complaints received, 72 investigations closed, and the average days for the investigation came down to 329. But before that, you will notice that in 2021, 2022, of the 121 cases, 38 was closed, could have been passed as well. And then the average days now to do the investigation is the highest, 2,404. The next year, it was 329. And in 2023-2024, it went down to 391 days on average to do the investigations. So they are improving a great deal. Plus, in 2022-2023, they referred 68 cases, 16 cases the following year, and the total number of cases that they referred to the Director of Corruption Prosecution is 145 cases for her to prosecute these individuals. So that's what this is basically saying. Now, it says here investigations closed compared to referrals to the Director of Corruption Prosecution. So in blue, it says investigation closed. Referrals is in gray. So of the investigations closed, 41, 51 was referred to the Director of Corruption Complaints. That was 2021. Then 21-22, there were far more investigations closed, but only 10 referred to the DCP, which would suggest that a lot of false alarm came in. But when it comes to 2022-2023, the number of investigations was 72 that was closed, and at the closure, they were able to refer 68 of them to the DCP for prosecution. 2023-2024, only 31 investigations and 16 were sent to the Director of Corruption Prosecution. So this is showing that they're not bad, except for 2021-2022, where they're really bad and created a backlog, I am sure. So now we come to the Corruption Prosecution Division dashboard, where it says the current reporting period, 16. Current reporting periods, prosecution ongoing, in red is 7. They have 41 summonses to be issued, and apparently weren't able to find the people. Prosecution ongoing is 7. Prosecution completed, file closed to include referrals carried over from previous reporting periods, and that would be in light green, which is 28. Referrals under review, which is blue, that is 3, and the dormant referrals, that would be 8 in orange. When it comes now to the time taken to dispose of the case, the prosecution concluded on first occasion convictions, that's 20. Prosecution concluded 3 weeks after prosecution is initiated, and that's the red, so that's 3. And then the prosecution concluded 7 weeks after prosecution is initiated and results in a conviction. That now is in yellow, so that would be 5. This is what is known as accountability. So they're giving you the reasons now to explain why it takes so long for these cases to be disposed of. So let me read it quickly for you. During the period under review, which is 2023 to 2024, this current period that the report is about, 26 declarants entered pleas of guilty on the first appearance before the court. Notably, the court's practice of requiring declarants to file outstanding statutory declarations in order to ensure compliance before sentencing led to a delay in concluding these matters. So what happened? You take the people to court, they have not filed the declarations. Before the court sentenced them, they insist that they should file the declaration before, and that they are saying is causing the delay. Now, I'm wondering now if this is a good idea by the court. No, I don't think it's a good idea by the court. The court should sentence them and then make an order that they should comply with the law, and failing which they will be charged for contempt of court. That might be a better way to do it. So perhaps the Integrity Commission can suggest that to the court as a matter of, getting the case disposed of efficiently, and at the same time getting the declarants to comply. Nobody wants to be charged with contempt of court. They might do jail time or pay a heavy fine. So that is what I would suggest. But let me continue. As time was allotted for compliance to be achieved, of the remaining 2 matters, one was withdrawn. In the remaining case, the declarant indicated an intention to proceed to trial. In other words, him saying, look man, me not plead guilty now. Make we go trial about this thing. But apparently, according to the report, it seems the declarant had a change of heart. I mean, you're talking about whole heap of legal fees for something you may not win. So the report says the declarant indicated an intention to proceed to trial, both on the initial date and at subsequent appearances. But during the last quarter of the reporting period, the declarant decided to plead guilty, resulting in the conclusion of the matter after the noted delay. So this one was delayed because the declarant was adamant that they were right and they wanted to go to trial, to have the judge agree with them, but change their mind after a period. So that was that. So what the Integrity Commission is basically reporting here is that they had 28 cases during 2023-2024 from last year to this year when they did this report. And of the 28 cases, 20 was concluded on the first day of hearing. Why? Because they pleaded guilty. And the other 8 now, 3 of them took 3 weeks to be concluded, and the other 5 took 7 weeks, which isn't bad in terms of the prosecuting. But what we need now is to get more investigations completed so we can have the prosecutions done. And we don't need the commission and the commissioners to be giving people a bly. You don't submit your statutory declarations, you find them or you take them to court and get more cases concluded. And the compliance rate as close to 100% as you could possibly have. Now we are looking at the matters referred to the Corruption Prosecution Division for the period ending March 31, 2024, which is this period. And the columns that we're really interested in would be the financial investigation referrals, because that is where now you would have the statutory declarations being investigated for illicit enrichment as well as making false statements on their declarations. It says here that for the number of matters referred, there were 16 in all. The next column says number of matters ruled for charges to be laid. There were 13. And it says here the number of matters investigated which resulted in prosecutions. So all 13 of them was referred to prosecutions. And then now it says number of matters under review at close of reporting period. So there are 3 of them they haven't made a decision on yet. So that is where they got the 16. So in terms of the financial investigation referrals to the Corruption Prosecution Division, which is where now the prosecutor is, she's going to make a decision about whether or not the evidence that has been provided to her in terms of the statutory declaration she can win. And if she thinks she can win the case, meaning that she has a legal basis for bringing the matter before the court, then she's going to decide that she will. And evidently, they're saying that in 13 of those cases, she did just that. Now, what is a breakout? How many of them were for illicit enrichment? How many for false statements? Whether they were against the parliamentarians or against the other public officials, that we don't know yet. In terms of discharge of liability notice, just for information, there were 111 of the cases. And 108, it appears that it was disciplinary action. So I wouldn't suppose that amounts to corruption, so to speak. Otherwise, there'd be more trouble. But I'll look that one up and tell you what that is about in a few moments. Let me read quickly for you what the notes says about the 16 that's being investigated. For the reporting period, the Corruption Prosecution Division received 2 referrals from the Investigation Division in the first quarter, 8 during the second quarter, 3 during the third quarter, and an additional 3 referrals during the final quarter, bringing the total number to 16 financial investigation matters being referred for the period. Of the 16 matters referred during the period, prosecution was recommended for 13 matters, with the remaining 3 matters under review at the close of the period. So those 3 under review, if they are concluded on time, we can expect to see them reported in the next annual report, which is next year. It goes on to say, of the 13 matters ruled for prosecution, prosecution was initiated in all matters during the period. Of the 13 matters for which prosecution was initiated, prosecution was concluded in 4 matters, and the remaining 9 are scheduled for sentencing within the first quarter of the coming period. So what they're saying here is they more or less are concluded. Only 4, though, that you can say is done for. The others may have pleaded guilty and they are awaiting sentencing, and that they expect to happen in the first quarter of the next period. Next, they are giving an account for 7 referrals which was made to the Director of Corruption Prosecutions for last year, which would be 2022-2023 period, which was the last year's report. And they're saying that of those 7 referrals, prosecution was initiated and concluded in 3 matters during the reporting period. Of the remaining 4 matters, prosecutions could not be initiated in 1 matter, as the declarant was noted to be deceased, so the person died. And in the other 3 matters, prosecution could not be initiated due to difficulties in locating the declarant. So them run away. Either that, or they're making it hard for them to serve notice on them, or, court documents. So they went on to say now, of the 60 matters referred in the third quarter, in the period 2022-2023, prosecution was initiated in 22 matters, of which 21 were concluded during the reporting period, with prosecution ongoing in 1 matter at the close of the period. Prosecution could not be initiated in the remaining 38 matters due to difficulties serving summonses on declarants who were deliberately frustrating such efforts in being notified to their requirement to attend court. Now, you would think, oh, these people are just making themselves difficult to find, and there is nothing the poor Integrity Commission can do about it. Oh, yes, there are ways they can get to them. Unless the law is very rigid about service, there are several ways in which they can serve persons who are making themselves difficult to find. And one such thing would be to advertise. They can go to the court and ask the court for permission to advertise the summonses in the newspapers. And once that is done, if they get the permission and they advertise and then don't turn up to court, then they can proceed. Now, as I said, they ought to know that that is what the law says. So unless the law of requiring the serving of the summonses is rigid, saying that you must serve it on the person, that's the only way that, I can expect they would have these delays in serving the summonses. Otherwise, they should use the law and ask the court for permission and go and advertise and get these 38 cases over and done with. You recall that the report spoke about some dormant cases. In this final paragraph here now, they are telling us why the cases were dormant. It says, from previous reporting periods, so from the reporting periods previous to this one, 8 matters have been designated dormant following repeated unsuccessful attempts to effect service of summonses as prescribed in accordance with the relevant divisional policy. Consequently, the matters have been so designated until additional information is obtained that will assist in locating these declarants. During the reporting period, the Intelligence and Witness Management Unit of the Investigation Division assisted in obtaining and providing new information that could assist in locating declarants for service. All right, so they can't find these persons. The time for service was exhausted, I imagine, and so they become dormant. But they are saying here, it's not that we give up on it, but I think so no can dodge for long. We have an Intelligence and Witness Management Unit, and we are look for UNO. So as soon as we find out where you are, we will be serving you with these summonses. So far, we have gone through the Integrity Commission's report for 2023-2024, looking for these illicit 8. We're looking for them in earnest, And so far, we have not yet found them. So what I decided to do before I start to quarrel with Justice Panton, and then we go have a falling out, I decided, you know what, let me go through the report. And since it's a searchable document, let me put in the word illicit to see every reference to the word illicit in the Integrity Commission's report, just to ensure I have not overlooked anything. And I found several. And indeed, when I looked at one of them that I had seen before, there was a bit of a revelation you're going to find very interesting. So please stay with me. Don't go anywhere. And unless you're going to share, because we need to get this information out to everybody. So please share at least to one person that you think might be interested in the topic. You have groups, please share in the groups. And remember, don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that you can get notifications. You hit that notification bell every time I upload. Notifications will be sent to you by YouTube. Also, leave your comments. And I know you're going to be leaving some comments because this particular section now is very interesting. So please stay with me. Don't go anywhere. Be patient. Just be patient. All right? Also, I've asked you to do everything, share, and also give the video a thumbs up if you find it informative and you want to give me a little encouragement so I can keep going, because this is all about you and me bringing information to you and so on and so forth. So let me get on with it, because you must be saying I chat too much. Get on with it. You want to hear what news I have for you about these illicit 8. All right, so when I put in the word illicit in the search area, the first thing that popped up was illicit enrichment. Now I imagine the chairman, Mr. Justice Panton, would have heard all the discussions taking place about the illicit 6, now 8, and he would have known that there's a tremendous amount of public interest in these parliamentarians. So he addressed the issue in his report, in the Integrity Commission report. And he says here, he says that the Act provides that any person may orally or in writing make a complaint, give information, or notify the Integrity Commission about a matter which involves or may involve an act of corruption or non-compliance with the Act. When a person approaches the Commission in this way, orally or in writing, the Director of Information and Complaints, that's Mr. Craig Beresford, you remember him? Yes, man, anyone lock up the cabinet, Yes, man, him same one. He is compelled, when you make a report to the Integrity Commission about matters that may involve corruption or non-compliance with the Act, he is compelled to record the complaint or information and submit it to the appropriate director of the Commission for action. So when you make the complaint, him have to write it down, him have to do something about it. That's what this is saying. All right. I want you to listen to this part. He's now explaining now. You know, some of us were complaining. Why is it that they are telling us about these illicit six and these people who are making false statements in our parliament, and yet they're not coming back to tell us what the follow-up of the investigations are? So I think he's addressing that complaint on our part by saying the Act also provides that the annual report must contain a general description of the matters that were referred to the Commission and a general description of the matters being investigated by the Commission. So he's saying, look, yes, we are hearing you, we hear your complaint, we understand your frustration and your impatience for answers, but it's not that we wanted to come and tell you that there are possibly 13 people in the parliament that we are investigating. It's just that we have to do it. Yes, Mr. Panton, but you can't come give a follow-up to. There is nothing to say that we are still investigating these matters. We are having some difficulties getting information from wherever, which maybe that is exactly why you are telling us about the institutions that giving you problems. Maybe you're giving us the information in another way, right? So we appreciate that. Assuming, of course, that that is what you were doing in your report. So it goes on to say now the Commission has no control over the complaints and allegations it receives. It must, however, investigate them and make a note of the fact of the receipt and the investigation in the annual report. That is what the legislation passed in Parliament requires. So he's saying it's not our fault, right? The police receive numerous complaints and allegations of various crimes that, when investigated, are found to be without merit. So does the Integrity Commission, which has no control over speculations, rumors, or mischief making in the society. Well, guess what, Mr. Panton? What you expect we to do? You can't tell we that you got some declarations from these persons. This is what they have declared. Anybody out there know whether or not them have anything else to declare? Can you do that? No. But you expect us to help you. So all we can do is, if we know that him have one apartment down there, so we're not sure if it was declared, all we have to do is to tell you about it, and you go check it out. And once you have that information, all you have to do at the Commission is go and check to see whether or not the item was declared in his statutory declaration, and you're on your way. You go and get the volume and folio to ensure that he's the owner. Or if you see somebody else's name on the title, it doesn't mean he's not the owner. It could be that he's a nominee owner of the title. Now you're going to have to investigate. But then you have the information. So, there's no point in griping. Of course, persons may not do the investigations prior to giving you the information, and I can see. But all you need to do is just to ask them to give you more particulars. If it's an apartment, what's your apartment number, volume, and folio, if they have that, or any such thing. The next time we came across the word illicit in the annual report was under the offenses under the Integrity Commission Act 2017 and the Corruption Prevention Act 2001 for financial year April 1, 2023 to March 31, 2024. And here it is speaking about the investigations that you're doing in 2 additional parliamentarians. It says illicit enrichment, section 14 and 15 of the Corruption Prevention Act 2001, and you have 2 additional investigations of parliamentarians, which now brings the illicit enrichment cases to 8 that you're investigating and 4 for the public officials. And this now is where it becomes very, very interesting. It speaks about the matrix of statutory declarations, examination, and outcomes. It says the table below provides details of the matrix of statutory declarations, examination, and outcomes during the period April 1, 2018 to March 31, 2024. That's 6 years that they have been doing these examinations and the outcomes. So they are giving a summary now of what they have been able to accomplish over the period that they have come into existence under the Integrity Commission Act of 2017. Now, it says here, I want you to pay close attention. I put in the counselors because, they are there. It says declarant categories. Now, what they have done this time, which I did not notice, was that they separated the members of parliament from the senators. Did you notice that? Yes, man. Remember, now we know that before that, what we were talking about was the illicit 6, now 8 parliamentarians, which would have included the senators as well as the members of parliament. So this time around now, they separated the two. So now we're going to know what is what. So we're looking now in the column that says number of public officials referred to the Director of Investigation for Illicit Enrichment and or false information. You hear that? And or false information. Now, when you look on the members of parliament, you will see that there were 416 statutory declarations from the MPs, of which 278 were examined and 168 certified. So they certified 168 of the 278 that they had examined. According to this report, over the period of the 6-year period, number of public officials referred to the Director of Corruption Prosecution for failure to provide information, there were 9 MPs. You know of any such 9? The only one I can think of they may have included is Dwayne Vaz he did provide the information eventually, but it was late. So that would be 8. And I do believe there might have been a case against Ian Hills, and he's stalling the matter. He has a matter before the court. So he may have been one of the 2 that I know of that was reported. The thing is, who are the other 7? You recall 7 MPs being referred to the Director of Corruption Prosecution for failure to provide information. Dalrymple could have been 1 too, so that would leave 6. So, and this is from 2018 until now. I don't recall, but if you recall, put all of the names in the comment section and let me go check it out for you and come back and make a report. Yes, I need to make a report too. Anyway, for the members of parliament now, under where it says number of public officials referred to the Director of Investigation for illicit enrichment and or false information was 13. 13. Remember now, 2 more were supposed to have been added. So it's supposed to say here 15, but it's not saying 15, it's saying 13. So what have we learned? We have learned that at least 2 of the members of parliament were being investigated for both illicit enrichment and providing false information on their statutory declaration. That's what this is saying. But here is the most important part. Of the senators under that same column, none of the senators were referred to the Director of Investigation for illicit enrichment or for providing false statements in their statutory declarations. That's what this is saying. No senator. So what we have learned is that the parliamentarians who are being investigated for illicit enrichment and providing false information on their statutory declarations are all members of parliament. They are MPs. And based on the fact that Dwayne Vaz was prosecuted for being late in providing information, it is very possible that these MPs that are being investigated are not sitting MPs now. It may well be that some of them are former MPs who were in the parliament up to 2020 when the last general election was held. They're all MPs. So of the 63 MPs that are sitting in our parliament, 13 of them, and very possible that those who lost their seats in 2020 Some of them may be involved also, but they are being investigated for illicit enrichment and making false statements on their statutory declaration. 8 of them for illicit enrichment, 8 of them for illicit enrichment, and 7 for making false statements. They were all members of parliament. We didn't know that before because the commission had put out that they were parliamentarians, giving the impression that these senators may have been who they are investigating as well. Well, this is saying that not one senator is being investigated for making a false statement on their declaration, and not one senator is being investigated for illicit enrichment. So, senators, congratulations, you are cleared. So you can now leave the room and make we now look upon these parliamentarians, right? They're all parliamentarians. So this is what we have discovered today, which we did not discover before, and I'm sure we haven't heard anybody talking about it. So you see, it's worthwhile going through these reports and reading it for yourself. And I don't just come mouth talk and give you things, me carry this thing come give you, make you see it for yourself. So nobody can come fool you and take you for no big head bud, because you see it for yourself and you can pause and read it for yourself and draw your own conclusions. All right, so that's all we have for you today. We have learned something. I am sure if you find this video informative, if you have learned anything from it that you find interesting, that you can now go and discuss with your friends and family who, like you and me, love the politics, right? We just love the politics and we love to go out there and make people know so we know things. So if you find this video informative, please give it a thumbs up. If you have not yet subscribed, please subscribe, because we need to grow the channel. And also leave your comments in the comments section, and please remember to share. So until next time, do take good care of yourselves and walk good.